Back everyone to another installment of QuaranSTREAM, Answer for COVID-19. So right now, Abrar is currently still in a meeting. She's wishing she could be right here with us right now. Well, she is here with us. But for now, I'm just going to continue with a few updates. So in terms of last time we were here, we had a number of community organizations. So whenever you get a chance to, just go ahead and hop into our last QuaranSTREAM. All of their information and resources are listed in the description. So whenever you get the chance, just hop in and check them out. Today, in a little bit, we will be joined by Dr. Brabrand, our FCPS school superintendent. And with that, I'm just going to hop in with some general updates. If you want to get reminders for our QuaranSTREAMs, you can text at Quaran, that's QuaranSTR, to 81010. Hi, Dr. Brabrand. So as you can see, Dr. Brabrand joined us. So I'm going to repeat that one more time. So text at QuaranSTR to 81010. And June 12th, which is tomorrow, is the official last day of school. So for me and like middle school, well, secondary school, my little sister goes to secondary school, so I forget. For secondary and high school students, this was our last day today. It was my last day of school, my last day of junior year, and tomorrow will be the official last day of school for all, I guess, conventional year students. So there will be a virtual graduation starting June 30th, and that will last through July 2nd. So make sure you see what time your school is scheduled to have the virtual graduation ceremony. And on June 23rd, Democratic and Republican primaries for Senate and Congress. So, and also Governor Ralph Northam recently said that all Virginia schools will be open for students in the upcoming year. And I'm sure Dr. Brabrand will be able to speak to the logistics and details of what FCPS will be doing in a little bit. And I'm just going to briefly kind of sum up some of the things that's been going on in our, like as usual. So in terms of technology, as of the 3rd, which was actually last week, we have delivered 22,190 laptops and 2,023 Wi-Fi devices. And as of yesterday, June 10th, FCPS has distributed a total of 1,358,760 meals. So the final distance learning packet for pre-K through 8th grade students has been mailed and posted for the week of June 8th, which is this past year. And K through 8 students will be provided 2 summer practice books. And one will be focused on students' respective mathematical course, and one will be dedicated to language arts. And with that, to make sure not to keep Dr. Brabrand waiting too long, we have some other updates, but we're going to keep that towards the end of the QuaranSTREAM, so please stay tuned. If you're interested in hearing some of the updates, we'll have that towards the end of our QuaranSTREAM. And with that, I'd like to kind of welcome Dr. Brabrand to our QuaranSTREAM.
So, hi, Kimberly. Hi, Abrar.
Yeah, Abrar right now, she's kind of like she's in a little meeting, school board things.
I'm sure she's busy, and it's an honor to be here for with you, Kimberly, and with Miss Omeish. And listen, I'm glad to be invited. I've heard so much about QuaranSTREAM, and you've got just hundreds and hundreds of people coming out wanting to know what's going on. And I can share a little bit of what's going on, and then take some questions, maybe, if you'd like, Kimberly.
Yeah. So actually, before you go in, I'd actually want to kind of, just for the sake of the public, kind of like for you to clarify the role of the superintendent.
Sure.
And kind of like get into like what you do and like also how you work with the school board. Because I feel as if for me, I actually didn't know kind of like where the difference was between superintendent and school board before I got the chance to be on the board.
Well, thank you. I mean, one of the things, the superintendent is the chief administrative officer for the school division for any school district. The superintendent does the day-to-day operations. The superintendent hires the staff, the leadership team, the principals, directors, all of the staff. And the superintendent is expected to follow out the policies and regulations that the school board approve. The school board approves the policies, and then the superintendent and staff develop the regulations, and then it's the superintendent's job to follow those policies of the school board. The superintendent also presents a budget. The superintendent can't pass a budget, only the school board can. So the school board's focus, honestly, is on hiring and evaluating the superintendent, on reviewing all of the policies, and there's thousands of pages of policies, on approving a budget, and the school board is very, very involved. And then the school board, not the superintendent, the school board sets the agenda for what the school board is going to meet about. And we talk about a lot of different topics. We just talked about advanced academics. We've talked about the SR&R, as you know, and we have another work session on that here at the end of the month. And it's my job, when the school board says we want to talk about this topic, to prepare a presentation with the relevant materials. So the long and short of it is, honestly, the superintendent is to run the school system day to day, but under the direction of the school board, with the school board really focused on policy and budget and helping provide direction to the strategic plan, which has been sort of a joint work between the school board and superintendent. What are the things that we want for students? What are our outcomes for kids? Portrait of a graduate. And what are the things we want for our kids and our parents? A caring culture. We have 4 categories: student success, caring culture, premier workforce, and resource stewardship. So making sure every kid succeeds, every child by name and by need, having a caring culture where people feel included and respected. And, you know, Kimberly, you've been a real leader, and certainly the last few weeks with the murder of George Floyd, so many people not feeling respected, coming out saying, hey, there's not a caring culture from my perspective. And it's more than just a few students. And it is a lot of our African-American and Black students and other students of color who say, I just don't feel welcome. So how do we do better? So it's a strategic plan goal, but it's just because it's a goal doesn't mean we're doing it well. And then premier workforce, how do we hire a great staff that includes being a diverse staff of teachers and support members, counselors, principals. And then resource stewardship is just about how do we spend our budget well. We get a lot of support from Fairfax County's Board of Supervisors. We also get some money from the state and a little bit of money from the federal government. So really it's the strategic plan, following the school system day to day, hiring people, and following through on the policies that the school board passes. So that's a little bit about the job. It's never boring. It's a lot of work. I'll admit it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of work for school board members. It's a $3 billion business. Fairfax County Public Schools is 24,000 plus full-time employees. So a lot of stuff, and 190,000 students. And our numbers have been growing. 10 years ago, it was probably 130,000. Now it's 190,000. We're the 10th largest school division in the country.
And it's going to continue to grow,
really
right?
Some districts like New York or Chicago, Miami-Dade. So that's a little bit of the job.
All right. So yeah, that thing. Oh, Abrar?
I think I can step in. We are just voting to certify our closed session. So we're wrapped up here and it's all public at this point. Thank you, Dr. Brabrand. It's really great to see you tuning in, and thank you for explaining to the public. I was, my ear was with you guys about what the roles are. So it's really important for folks to understand, and especially as you cater your questions today, to know what the roles are to be able to ask the proper questions. Dr. Brabrand, I was thinking, we can go through a couple of topics. I think the overview was very helpful that you provided. And in anticipation of the questions I am sure are going to come up, and then maybe we can open it to the floor. We're actually receiving live questions that are not stopping right now. So just want to make sure that we give you the opportunity to talk about all the hard work that you guys have been putting forward. Maybe you mentioned the strategic plan and all the good work that's done on a regular basis. Maybe just tell us a little bit about the distance learning plan. For the public, maybe I should outline some of the board actions that are coming up so people know, right, that we have a hearing June 15th. The staff are going to be presenting to the school board the plan, which maybe Dr. Brabrand can comment a little on what your thinking is and the considerations are. June 18th, there's a public hearing that's going to be coming up. So you have the opportunity, actually, as a member of the public, to let us know what your experiences have been, what considerations you want us to make sure we take into account. And so that sign up link is on the website. And then the 23rd, staff will come back and present again in a work session where the board can hash out further details, with the goal of having a decision by June. So Dr. Brabrand, take it away. What have been some of the
Sure.
pieces in place?
So I saw in your chat a little earlier, Ms. Omeish, about when is it going to be up. We hope to have it up tomorrow afternoon, where it'll be posted publicly. And of course, school board members like to have, and I know it's something we're striving for in all of this pandemic. So much work is going on, how to get it to you in advance so you can properly review it and digest it before Monday. But we hope to have it up tomorrow afternoon. We're still finishing it. We're working tonight, last night, and we're looking at, multiple scenarios, again, where we would be in school virtually, where we'd be back in school, but we'd have to have social distancing, 6-foot social distancing to the greatest extent possible. That's exactly what the governor provided in the guidance. And what does that look like? And it probably looks like a staggered schedule where we can't have every kid in every day, but we can have many students. And then one of the things the governor talked about, and we're going to share, is students that are at the risk of severe illness, having the need and the option to have a virtual, even if we do come back face-to-face. So we're going to go over all those scenarios. We're going to answer questions about PPE. Should students need to wear masks on the bus or in the classroom? How are we going to have technology for kids? We're looking at transportation because they've given some guidelines about how we're supposed to do school buses. We've got a little bit of flexibility, maybe more than people think. We could be a little bit more stricter if we feel the health conditions are getting worse. Right now, they're getting better. For the last couple of days, the number of COVID cases has dropped here in Fairfax below 100. It was like 50 some today. It is really going down. We really hope that continues, but we have to be careful. We're hearing that in some states it's going up. So we really have to look at conditions based on what's happening in Virginia and particularly what's happening in Fairfax. But we're going to be in phase 2 on Friday. And that's for all of our community in Fairfax and for our schools. We're going to talk a little bit about return to play, because I know a lot of students want to know when can they do sports or at least do practices. And we hope to have a we will have a defined plan for you all. Really, we may have some information on it as early as Monday so that we can start getting ready for folks and students to be outside and doing some practicing. As you know, actually, about a week or two ago, when we went to phase 1, we were able to open up tracks for the public and for students, and also open up our fields. So the virus is still here. We have to keep students and staff safe, and we have to show, and we will be showing all the things that we're going to do around making that happen. But we are, again, with the governor announcing on Tuesday, it will be a new school year with new instruction, and all instruction will be graded instruction. So I know in fourth quarter, everything suddenly closed. Was this school? Was it not school? What kind of school is it going to be? We are going to have a full school year next year. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. It's just what form it will be, and can we be flexible based on health conditions to change from face-to-face to virtual and back. And we'll be talking a little bit about that.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And of course, there's always collaboration on a daily basis, even with the health department, right? To make sure that I know that's a commitment you've made to make sure. Yeah.
And the health department will be joining us on Monday. We're very excited to have members of the health department coming. They're going to have some slides for us. And so we're really excited. We're going to bring together all of the pieces that everybody wants to know: the health, the sports, the schedules. And what we want to do is give people the most clear idea possible by the end of the month. Well, what I'm going to be asking the board for is, this is how it's going to look if these are the conditions. And, I'm not going to decide till we're closer to the time, but if it is this, then this is what it looks like, because we have to start planning for it. I want to say one other thing, that Kimberly is on the task force for return to school. You may have already mentioned that, Kimberly.
I didn't.
You did? Yeah, we're so
No.
proud to have you on it. And she asked a great question today, and I know a lot of the people on QuaranSTREAM are often students, and I just want to repeat this. I have no intention in any of the plans I'm bringing to you next week to cut back on the electives of our students in high school or middle school or elementary school. We have extracurricular programs. We have wonderful CTE, career technical education programs. We have art, music, PE. There is nothing in my plan to curtail that, even if we're virtual. So I want students and family members to know that right now, that we are going to run a regular school year in the most normal school year we can, and we're not going to sacrifice programs that have made Fairfax so special and so unique, that have made people want to come here for years and years because of the pandemic we're in, or even because we have a tighter budget. We need to deliver those programs, and that will all be part of our plan that we'll share on Monday.
Yeah, no, thank you, Dr. Brabrand. And, you know, one of the things I know Dr. Brabrand's committed to is being responsive to the community. So there is an email for you to return to school at fcps.edu for you to bring out, you know, any of your concerns, thoughts, suggestions. And like I said, the public hearing will be really important. It's an opportunity for you to come on to our public, you know, our school board meeting virtually and to share, I believe in 3 minutes, what your, you know, thoughts are in front of the school board. And certainly Dr. Brabrand will be there as well.
So, you know, you made a great point, Abrar. So many things that we're trying to do here. We had a town hall for our staff yesterday, and it was at Sprague Center, but we were socially distanced and everybody could get on. There were no video conferencing limits for our staff to be able to watch, of course, or watch it streamed. And we're going to have a town hall for parents next week. We're also, like you said, we already have a portal up to get your feedback on return to school. Now that you've seen, the governor has a 130-page document that you can go to the Virginia Department of Education and look at it. And of course, our stuff will be posted tomorrow afternoon. And then we'll also have a survey going out to our parents late this week. We're finishing it up because we wanted to see what the governor was going to say. It's going to be in 8 languages, and we'll have a survey to staff. So we're doing a lot of community engagement because we know this is a very significant issue to all of our stakeholders in the school system and outside. And we're absolutely committed to doing the best we can, even as we're under these just unprecedented conditions. And I think it's going to be a great conversation. We've done a lot of work, and we can't wait to share it with you on Monday.
Yeah, we look forward to seeing it. So I wanted to comment, I know Alex is one of the people in our feed and others who have been asking questions about immunocompromised students and staff who may have unique challenges as we phase in, if we do. So maybe talk a little bit about some of the considerations being made for them.
Yeah, so I'm going to say, not getting too far ahead, but I will say this, that we looked at the governor's guidance on Tuesday, and we absolutely, every school district must have in place appropriate accommodations for student and staff at risk of severe illness. And we know there are people who are compromised, both students and staff, and we have an obligation to take care of those students and staff. So we will have information about that on Monday. We want to do everything we can, and will be proposing a bunch of things to keep schools safe. Now, the state wants us to look at CDC guidelines, and they got posted weeks ago, but they were kind of broad. The state gave us some additional guidance. The state guidance included a health questionnaire that would happen every day. The state guidance is about 6-foot social distancing wherever possible. And 6 feet, you know, when you think about 6 feet, how do you pull that off in a classroom? You really, well, let me say it this way. Every school district is challenged to say, how many students can you really put in a classroom 6 feet apart? And we have to be responsible about that 6-foot distancing. Where the governor recommended that developmentally appropriate kids could wear masks, but did not require it unless they were within 6 feet of another person. And teachers were also asked to wear a mask. But again, if they were like at the front of the class, more than 6 feet away, they could drop the mask and talk or lecture for a little bit. They would need to put the mask back on when they would come closer within 6 feet. So we're looking at all of that. They all seem reasonable things. One thing, Kimberly, I know a lot of high school students are on here too, has been about consider restricting mixing classes. And I'll say we're looking at that, but I feel that looks different at different levels. Certainly at elementary school, maybe you don't want to move kids as much as you would normally have done. But, you know, in high school and even in middle school, you have teams. So there's a little bit of mixing, but you're often in a team and you go around. But in high school, to take all of the electives and choices, we're going to have to, I believe, and again, we'll wait and see what I bring, but I think we've got to leave some flexibility for kids to have the opportunity to move through classes, to go where they need to go, and maybe ask students to be a little more strict about face coverings as they transition in classes, for example. So those are the things that we'll be talking about with the public and the board. I'm really eager to do it. I know people have been waiting and waiting. And honestly, we were waiting on the state guidance before sharing our own. And the CDC honestly had only given out their guidance maybe 2 weeks ago. So to be truthful, it's not like it's been out here for months and we haven't shared it. We've been waiting for others to give us that help. And I think we're going to be able to give you a pretty good sense of what school will look like in the fall.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Brabrand. Sorry, I'm just looking back and forth here
look
at our feed.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of them coming in.
Yeah, Kimberly is going to be trying to insert them by theme here as we progress in this conversation.
Sure.
Mhm.
You know, so you talked about the immunocompromised students, which is really important. I am wondering, you know, so we've distributed over 22,000 laptops, over 2,000 MiFi devices, all good news. I know we're planning to make additional purchases, some of which were approved by the board, others that we're hoping to use CARES funding for. Would love to hear your thinking on, you know, where we hope to be by the end of the summer, what some of the steps that are being taken are to ensure that all our students are able to transition into that distance learning.
Yeah, so as you said correctly, Ms. Omeish, that the school board already passed back in March, right, really kind of when the pandemic hit, for FCPS on at the middle school. So every middle school kid, a brand new laptop, and that's just going to be wonderful. We already had it at high school for the first time this year, thank goodness. And I'm very glad that we worked with the board prior to you to make that happen. It had been piloted in some schools, but not in all, and it was really an equity issue. And I honestly don't know what would have happened if we had not had those laptops this year for high school students. But we're going to have it for middle school kids next year as well. And then for elementary, we've had all of an inventory of our middle and high school laptops that are older, but they're still pretty good. And we're going to push all those down to elementary school. And we are finalizing, the board approved us to purchase over 20,000 more computers that will go to our elementary kids. And that's going to let us be able to have a computer for every elementary school student. Now, we hope they won't have to use it as much maybe, but we need to have it in case they're on the staggered schedule, which again, could be very likely, or if they're in an all virtual environment. So those computers are coming in this summer, and we're very excited. We're very excited to have them. We got to train teachers. One of the things the board asked is about more technology support in schools, like T-Specs, who help like make the computer, load the software, fix the hardware, and SBITs. Those are the people that teach teachers how to use the technology. They've been in huge demand. And it's really every teacher, every educator, superintendent, principal, teacher has had to take a crash course in how to use technology in ways they never had. So we're really going to be in a position to have a device for every student, which is fantastic. But we have a lot of training of teachers to do because, as you know, back in March, some teachers were doing it for the first time. some teacher, and every teacher went above and beyond, but some teachers were already really good at it. So it was easier to do, you know, fun stuff in classes, and others were still just trying to figure out how to get the video feed and the chat to work. So we're going to really scale up a lot of professional development over the summer. And we're going to try to help families to learn more about technology, because we know a lot of them at home, they're learning this stuff for the first time. And I created a Superintendent Technology Advisory Council. There's a student on that. AJ is on that. And we have four co-chairs. Many of them are CEOs of national and international technology companies, and they're advising me on great ideas that I can bring to the board, and I'm doing that. We just had a meeting today, like our 4th or 5th meeting, so that's really exciting too.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm looking at the chat. We had Manuel Gomez, who was asking about what the plans are to kind of like help, especially English language, like learning parents, learn about the hardships and kind of like the challenges that come with distance learning, because he mentioned online literacy and like certain times where families could potentially be left in the dark about certain technological issues. So I'm glad that you brought that up and the work that's being done about it, and just want to address it so that Manuel sees that there's stuff being done to kind of like reach these families.
Let Manuel know something else we've done on the website, and I need to go to it myself, but on the website are now these parent phone lines where you can call in by language. Say if Manuel's parents would prefer to speak in their native language than English. And there are language lines you can call in and ask questions and get help and figure out about more resources. And we've always had it, but we haven't advertised it as well. And now, as I understood it, this actually came up in our Technology Advisory Council today. We've put that on every school's website. So parents can go on, look for their language, and make a phone call and talk to someone in their language about questions they have or help that they need. And we are talking about how we can create more videos for parents about how to do technology. Maybe we bring parents and kids together and they can do joint videos about, hey, look how easy it is. But we recognize that that's been a barrier for a lot of students and families, and we need to bring that barrier down.
Yeah, I think that's something, you know, Dr. Brabrand, I know, I'm sure you have as well, been hearing from, especially some of the teachers working in the lower income areas or where there are language barriers, for parents to be caught up to speed on the technology, because now we're having much higher expectations, you know, for parents to know how to log in and to use a computer to begin with in a language that may not even be their own, and to set their kids up, you know, with the video learning and all of that, and figure out how to troubleshoot the audio and all the various challenges. So as we move ahead, I think, you know, maybe in our conversation about the CARES money or whatever it would be, thinking of what some of those parent supports, how we can bolster some of those, because I know we provide some of that, and I know that our teachers working on it are working very hard, spending, you know, hours of their time walking parents through and really doing incredible work, which is what makes our division great. It's really the staff and the leadership.
Absolutely.
Doing that.
Absolutely.
So on that point of, you know, parent support, I saw a number of questions. I saw one at least from Amy. I'm sure there are others. Kimberly will be watching our feed to bring anything in here about childcare. I know that that's kind of something between the Board of Supervisors and the school board. It's not just our issue. Things like SAC, that's usually an after-school program or some kind of supervision, right, is run by the county. We just work in partnership. But maybe if you comment a little bit on your thinking around that, what you've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, that one, I may not have all of the answers on Monday. I'm going to just say that up front.
It's not our business, I mean, to some degree. But
well, it is important to us, because some of what we know that many of our teachers are so eager to return, but my goodness, if we could provide childcare or support when their students, say if we had a staggered schedule, what about the days that their students are supposed to be at home? Could their students have an opportunity to come in? And so we're needing to look at that. We're needing to look at childcare. We worked very closely with the county, and of course the county runs something called SAC. It's very popular before and after school. We're looking at private childcare opportunities, and we're actually hearing that there's a lot of space out in private childcare, but how do we merge it or manage it? But I'd be honest in setting expectations. I don't mind doing this one for Monday. I don't have the entire plan yet done for childcare. One of the things we're going to do when we survey teachers is find out how much of a barrier childcare is for specific teachers, and then trying to work with directing them either with, if their kids are school age, is there something we can do if they're in Fairfax County? And if they're not school age, is there some childcare through SAC or through a private group? But we're still working on it. The other thing I want you to know, and again, I can't say for certain yet, but we're trying to work very closely with other school districts around us. And again, it may not happen perfectly, but boy, would it be pretty cool if we all had a very similar schedule. If we do go back, if we're only back, say, alternating days, that the same schedule and times are roughly the same, so that people could be on, their students. We have teachers who live in, say, Loudoun, but work here in Fairfax. If the districts were on the same schedule, man, that might be a lot easier for them, and for our teachers to deal with childcare issues. So we're exploring all of that, and everybody really is, in a sense, reinventing school completely based on this pandemic as we look for the fall. But we're making a lot of progress, and people, I cannot tell you how proud I am of our leadership team members and principals and coordinators working around the clock, and really have been almost since March, trying to think through all of these new challenges. I forget the thing. It's very popular among students now, and maybe it's not even popular anymore, but what are those rooms called? You go in and you're trapped and you have to get out.
Escape room?
Escape room.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like being put in an escape room as an educator, and now you've got to figure out how to get out of this, and what many people feel, trapped by a pandemic, and I want to get back to normal. How do we do that in a way that's safe for our kids and staff? And we're in the middle of working that out, but there's so much to think about every part of the day: food, technology, the health protocols, sports, field trips, visitors. And so again, one thing I do encourage, as people are wanting to learn more and just understand what we're facing, go see the governor's guidance. It's 160 pages of all the information to look at when you're trying to make a decision.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead, Kim.
sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just because I see, like, we have Nora who's in the chat. She was talking earlier about asking about how teachers would they have to pay for childcare, and of course you probably may not have the answer for that yet, but just kind of to make sure that she knows that we're posing the question, like, how would teachers kind of approach this? Will they need to pay for the childcare that you're
Right.
speaking of, since you talked about private childcare,
Yeah.
all those things?
I can answer it this way. SAC is a fee-based, there's like a sliding scale. So if you have free and reduced lunch, I believe there's a lesser amount. But SAC is a fee-based program. Private programs, it really depends on the particular private provider. If we were to offer it ourselves, could we offer it at no charge? It's possible. But again, as I said, I don't, and I want to really repeat this: we will not have the full approach to childcare done, but we've identified that as something that we think, because we're listening and we have people saying, hey, what are you guys thinking about or looking at for childcare? Because it's natural. If you've got young kids, you want to be able to go back to work, but you got to figure out what your kid's doing. If your kid's school age and isn't going to go to school every day, and if your kid's not in school yet, you've got to find childcare of some. In some ways, we're a little bit more on childcare up until COVID hit, most people who worked had childcare if their kids weren't in school. You know what I mean? If they were young kids, because you were already working, you had to have figured out childcare. The trick now may be if your kid is still young, kindergarten or first grade, so they're still young, they can't be left alone all day. But what if school isn't on for them that day, or it's on virtually? So those are the things we're still sort of working through.
Yeah, and if I may, I mean, well, as you say, Dr. the nugget here is really focusing on those supports for parents and teachers as they go into this to make that as easy as possible, so that there are less burdens when teachers have to kind of manage their own kids and teaching.
Yeah, teachers aren't worried about their kids. They can be able to focus on the students and kids in front of them.
Exactly. And the other piece, for the sake of the community, I wanted to point out there are incredible nonprofits through Fairfax County Coordinated Services that actually are providing childcare and working towards figuring out how to do that safely. Our last stream on Sunday was with a number of these organizations. There's actually a network, so depending on where you are in the county, you can call a particular branch. So I highly encourage you to take a look, and you'll find the Family Coordinated Services Planning number in the description of that video, where you can call and really ask for whatever it is that you need, including childcare, and they'll be able to connect to the right organization.
Where can they go to get that information, Abrar?
There's a phone number. It's on my Facebook page. There's a description in that video. So I'm happy to pull that number in the meantime here, and I'll put it out and I'll say it so that you also have it. But that's good, because resource.
One of the things I'm learning more and more is there are networks in Fairfax, and we have to share those with everybody. Sometimes it's a closed network. Some people know about it and some people don't.
Absolutely.
Over the years, SAC has had a wait list at many schools to even get in. Mm-hmm. So it's been an extremely popular program. And we're going to see, we're going to look at everything we can as we approach returning to school.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for covering that. As we think about returning to school, of course, there are always, I want to ask a big picture question, and then we can go into more depth. Implementation. So a lot of the questions coming in have to do with those kinds of challenges, right? We always like to explain to people that the first in the chain of command, right? You want to first go to your teacher if there's a problem. You go to the principal after that. Right. And then that's when you think of escalating further if your principal's not able to help you, but they tend to be the leaders in your community who are able to resolve issues.
That's
Dr.
right.
Brabrand, on your end, what are some of the steps you guys are taking and to take into consideration some of these gaps, especially as we move into an unprecedented way of learning and hopefully doing it in an improved way this fall? Would love to hear some of your thinking and maybe even consolation to the community about this.
Well, and correct me if I didn't get your question right. One gap that we've looked at in distance learning is access. Every kid didn't have access. So we talked about getting those computers for the summer. All the computers will be in this summer. It's going to be a crazy time to bring in thousands of computers and get them ready, but that's what our plan is. Another, I want you all to know, and Kimberly probably knows it better than anyone. If we're in virtual learning, if conditions get worse and it's just not going to be safe, we're not going to offer distance learning the way it looked during fourth quarter. We're going to have much more face-to-face time at every level for students. So that's important for you all to know and for students to know. It will be much more robust at elementary school, at middle school, and at high school. And we're going to be working and training our teachers around that. And I know that was an issue for many people who wanted more of that face-to-face time. We're still looking, though, of course, in our plans, what we called asynchronous or on-demand learning, where you still can go and get resources or lessons or pre-recorded videos, and that can still be part of what teachers may have this year. In fact, if we're doing a staggered schedule, you might be one day live and face-to-face with the teacher, and then the next day there may be something virtual, whether you're working on a pre-recorded video or doing an assignment or getting an email of some activity. So we're working through that. We're re-looking at all of our curriculum. I know there's a lot of questions too around SOLs. I have been part of co-chairing a state committee. It is our recommendation that we waive accreditation for next spring so that these tests don't count against students and schools. We think there's just too many impacts and it's not going to be fair to students. That's the request I've made of the state superintendent. We don't have word yet whether it'll be the federal government, the U.S. Department of Education, that determines whether we would still have to take the SOL test. What we have recommended is even if we have to take the test, it shouldn't count against a kid for graduation or against a school for accreditation. So we'll see as we get closer to the school year on both those fronts, and I'll keep you and everybody else informed.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
I was able to pull this number in the meantime. So 703-222-0880 for folks. And this is, it provides opportunities in childcare, but also, housing, food, whatever it is that you need, they will connect you to the right party. But
703-222-0880. 0880.
Yeah, the County Coordinated Services Planning number.
Great.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure, oh, there we go. Thank you, Carol, for posting that in our stream feed. I wanted to also go into a number of our most vulnerable populations. Kim, feel free to bring in the questions relevant to this. Let's talk about English language learners. So we know we get some of that funding from Title III, right? For those who are watching, federal government offers us some money to support these students. So little money. But we also just approved in our budget some supports for summer school K-8. We know that they generally also have some high school supports. So, but we also know this is an area where there's been a lot of challenges in providing more supports and instructional services, student to teacher ratios, especially with, I'm sure you're going to mention SLIFE students, right? Some of our students who have interrupted learning. So we'd love to hear about some of your plans and your assessment of where we are and where we're headed on this.
So the state was really moving forward with additional staffing for English language learners. Some of that has been curtailed with the budget, unfortunately. We know we need to do more. You actually offered an amendment to the budget that passed for some additional dollars for English language. I think it was several $100,000. The reality is when we really look at English language staffing, we need millions more to get the class sizes right and the supports right, particularly at our elementary schools where there's just not enough. And that's where sometimes you can have the biggest impact that those students learning the language. But we did get in the budget additional graduation coordinators for our high schools. And many of the high schools are those with higher numbers of EL that are at risk for dropout. We need someone who can bring them in and go, look, it's okay. You can do this. Here's the scheduling. It's a lot of hand holding. And we've created several positions at our schools to have someone really guide those students to make sure they don't fall behind, they don't give up. And we're really hopeful that we can do everything we can to mitigate or prevent the dropout rate, because some kids already felt economic pressure before. Now they may be the only one in their family who can get a job. Should I stay in school or get a job? We want them to stay in school and then figure out how to have a flexible schedule so they can still work if they have to, as hard as that is. So dropout rate next year, one thing we're going to really be doubling down on looking at is attendance. We know that not every kid participated during fourth quarter. They didn't. Some didn't have access. Some had other events happening at home, family members sick with COVID, economic pressures of having to work because people were laid off in their house and you've got to survive. So we know that we've got a lot of catching up to do for some of our students, especially English language learners. And you're going to see in the budget, I will be bringing a budget on Monday, and one of the things that the board has talked about is additional intervention and support money for kids. And you've also talked about additional needs for school psychologists, school social workers, school counselors, and perhaps all I'll say is I know those have been important things to you all, and I think you're going to see that reflected in some of the things I'm bringing to you for those funds.
You're getting me excited. So I'm looking forward to Monday. But yeah, I mean, especially, with this population, given with COVID, I mean, for those especially who haven't been tuning in, but even more broadly, being at home, right? So the practice of the language, there's regression with that. So certainly, looking forward to seeing what supports we're offering them. I'd be remiss, of course, also not to touch on another vulnerable population, which is students with special needs. We know we did a particular stream on this, so I don't want to go too far into depth. Folks who want to learn more about that can take a look. Teresa Johnson, who's the head of special services, did a great job, her and her team.
She had a wonderful time. That's great.
Yeah, we had a great time with her. So you can take a look at that if you have more questions, but maybe just broadly, big picture, Dr. Brabrand, give our audience a sense of your thinking.
Well, one thing is you will absolutely see defined funds to support our students with special needs. We know already they've been another impacted group because some of the special needs and services just can't be replicated the same way virtually. It's not the same as face-to-face experience. So we have absolute plans to provide supports for that. We are doing, as you mentioned, summer school. There's a lot of it. There's credit recovery that's going on. We reduced our tuition, Kimberly. I don't know if you saw that. We reduced our tuition this year for online campus to get more kids in. We are going to have some free reading and math materials to go over this summer. Our summer approach, by the way, to plan with thousands of kids, we planned in May. We couldn't predict what right now was. We have stayed focused on a virtual approach for the summer. And interesting, by the way, I know I'm digressing, but I just want to say something because I know Kimberly, maybe many of your friends, we did try to do the best we could for graduation. But I want to be clear, the governor's phase 2 that comes out on Friday still limits outdoor gatherings to no more than 50 people. So there was no way, even if I had announced weeks ago that we could have done a graduation now, that we could have been able to do it under the governor's orders. I just wanted to mention that as an aside, but we know our focus for special education kids is real. We know it's a budget priority, and I think you'll see that. And we know we really need to train our teachers to be ready to do everything they can to help catch students up when they come back. And we do have, again, some summer programming already online, including ESY, which is also targeted for special education kids, extended school year. It's about 4,000 kids, and they'll be receiving services and supports online this summer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Brabrand. And you touched on the seniors piece a little bit. I know we did a stream for that as well. So if you have more questions, go there with Dr. Ivy. Wow. You did a great job. But for now, we know that we're honoring our students in a number of ways. Maybe just one, two, three, if you just point those out.
We're doing the sort of the graduation celebration photo ops where each student's able to come. We've got stages at each school to walk up, to be photographed in their cap and gown, to have their name announced, hear pomp and circumstance. Is it as fun as being with 600 of your best friends? I don't know, but it's what we could do. And we needed to do something under the circumstances for this class of 2020. We also contracted with a company, and I think, Kimberly, you were just mentioning it, that's going to have a virtual celebration, and you'll be able to have that as a keepsake to have forever. And I know some people wanted it sooner. Contractually, everybody in America wanted to create virtual graduation celebrations. And we had to negotiate the contract for thousands of, really 13,000 seniors. And so I know it's coming late in the month. But as I understand it, every student will have had a chance to have it done by the 4th of July. So it'll be really here at the end of this month. And I hope many students do it and take advantage of being a part of it. There was a national program that had Rodney Robinson, a teacher in Richmond, Virginia, just a couple hours south of here, who was the National Teacher of the Year. He was on, and it was a national sort of celebration video. And I watched it. It was really cool, really well done. And we're trying to recreate that kind of thing for our each of our high schools. So I hope it's fun. And I'm sure Kimberly, well, you'll let me know through your friends, because you got another year to go, but hopefully let me know what your friends say about the virtual experience.
Yeah, and we certainly hear it in our inboxes on the school board. So
yeah, I get it too in my inbox.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we hope that, you know, this is a special time for folks, and I know staff have worked so hard to really do their best to make it unique. So the other topic I do have about distance learning, and then we can switch to a couple of equity points, is mental health. So I know that you talked a little bit about the counselors, social workers, all that piece. Looking forward to it. Just wanted to make sure it's pointed out there as one of those things that is of consideration, especially during this time with particular challenges. As we know, students socio-emotionally are going to have, you know, unique experiences. So feel free to comment on that if you'd like, but I know you talked a little bit about it.
Well, one is about getting additional school counselors, additional social workers, additional psychiatrists, psychologists. But the other important thing I want you to know is we did not cut staffing. I didn't raise class size. I didn't cut anybody out of the Fairfax County Public Schools family, either during the end of the year or in my proposed budget. So those social emotional supports that we've had, now we need more, and we are proposing more. We did propose already in the budget you passed 10 additional social workers. And again, stay tuned for Monday for some additional recommendations. But we know that there's still not enough folks to support students around those. And we know that everybody, if we're being honest with ourselves, me, every teacher, every employee experienced trauma, different levels, different degrees, some far more worse, some life and death. But everyone has experienced a collective trauma because of COVID-19. It's changed our lives completely. And that's going to be an impact that just isn't going to wash away when school starts in the fall. So we need to be there for each other. We need to give each other grace. It's been the hardest 3 months of my life, with the exception of the passing of my father 9 years ago. And I was a man in my 40s at that time, certainly an adult. And it was very, very hard. And to think about being a teenager or an elementary student or middle school student right now, all of this change and trauma, not being able to finish the school year up normally, I mean, that is hard. And many of our students face family hardship or family sickness right now because of COVID. It's very, very difficult. And we have to be there for each other. And I think it needs to be said as well, when we're talking social emotional, we've spent the last few weeks with the murder of George Floyd and all the racial unrest and protests, deservedly, about systemic racism, that a lot of our students, on top of everything else, are very angry that so much racism still exists in this country. And when is it going to be different? And part of what people like me, white men like me, need to step up and call it out and be anti-racist and push to say that there's no place for hate and racism in Fairfax. And I'm working on that. I know and recognize, as I'm meeting with different people, that I can do that better and be a voice and be a clear advocate, like Kimberly has been from the first day she was on the board. And my voice is me, limited by who I am. I can only be who I am, but I can be a voice to make sure we are saying no to racism and hate, and more proactively dismantle things. And as Kimberly knows, her own school is one of the things the school board will be reviewing, the name of that school. And Kimberly has been an advocate for that for some time. And that is coming before the board, I believe, next week. It was already in process when COVID hit, and it's being restarted. And I honestly think you are going to see some additional developments from my leadership team and from my principals around these issues of racism in our school system. So stay tuned. But the board will be doing a major one as they relook at the name of Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, and for the sake of the public, June 22nd, there will be a public hearing to the school board. So you have the opportunity to sign up to speak. You go to the FCPS website, easy to find. There's a link for a form that you can fill out, and you can have those 3 minutes to offer your perspective. And it is important, especially for those of us who are social justice oriented, to make sure your voice is heard, because there are certainly voices from all kinds of perspectives that are going to be there. So just want to make sure I put that there. Yeah, so Kimberly, if you want to offer some of the questions from the feed.
Yeah, we actually got a lot of them coming in at the same time. And also just to make sure that everybody knows that in the feed that we're not intentionally ignoring questions. We're just trying to mainstream it to keep the conversation going. But kind of on the topic of like when we were talking a little bit before about staff, and I know a lot of there was a lot of concern about I guess staff support in terms. I know Julia in the chat asked about will there be social emotional needs met for staff, and then I think Lisa asked, will teachers be expected to double teach in person and online? And I know there was concerns about pay in terms of that. So if you have any insight on the type of support that will be given to staff during these tough times, because just as much as students are important in our school systems, we all know that teachers kind of keep it going.
So we have something called EAP, Employee Assistance Program, and I really encourage any staff that are struggling. There's a lot of free counseling and free supports, and we've seen like 300 or 400% increase in the use of staff using the program. It's called EAP. Go to the website, employees can, our intranet, and get all of those resources. We certainly are well aware of trying to have teachers balance both face-to-face and then this sort of asynchronous or lessons that are done offline. And we're working and looking very carefully at that load and how to do that the right way. And teachers have asked for how can they have more planning time. And again, I will be addressing that Monday. But I know that planning time for teachers is a big part of the mental load. Look, I wish it's important to know that the governor is saying that he's going to reconvene to look at the budget in late July or early August. The county has said they're going to look at revenues by quarter. If things get better, and now if things get worse, I'm just being honest, we've got to make harder decisions. If things get better, and I hope that they will as we're reopening, we may have the opportunity to provide additional compensation for our staff. But we're going to have to play it by ear, just like we've been month by month. And again, we're in the middle right now that the health data is more promising in Virginia. Virginia's reopening. And I hope that that's going to be a good sign for us for the fall. I'm going to keep my thoughts and prayers that that's the case. And I hope we all do, because I know I'm ready. I mean, of course, we're all ready for a vaccine. We're ready to have COVID not impact our lives, and we're ready to get back and focus on school. And I will say something you said, Abrar, about those interested in social justice. I have to say personally, what I've watched is this moment has made, I think, more Americans than ever, maybe since the civil rights movement in the 60s, become interested in Black Lives Matter. I went to a protest here in Fairfax City, where I live, run by Fairfax high school students. The majority of that crowd chanting Black Lives Matter was not Black, was not African American. It was young people, it was old people, older people, sorry. But I had never in my life seen anything like that before. And it was very moving. And I do think it's not all going to change overnight. Nothing that's been around for hundreds of thousands of years is going to be gone in a week or a month. But I do believe there's going to be more change in a shorter period of time over the next 1 to 2 years than there's been in a generation. And people like you and Kimberly are helping lead the way. and it's helping bring people along to try to see something in a different way. And you know, I have these glasses. Not everybody has to wear glasses. Some of us do, some of us don't. But how to just walk in somebody else's shoes, it's very hard to do. Lots of people are too caught up in what their shoes are like to worry about somebody else's. But the more that we do it, and I think we are doing it right now as a country, and we're doing it even in Fairfax County. And I think it's going to make us better, and it's going to make Fairfax County Public Schools a lot better.
Absolutely. And just yesterday, I was at McLean, similar situation. Hundreds of students, parents, neighbors came out. It's now penetrated the mainstream, right? I mean, it's now something that everybody's accepting. It's no longer controversial like it was several years ago, in a time when it never should have been, but we've made progress. And so I hope to continue looking at that light at the end of the tunnel and fighting for the right causes. On the point of pay, you know, I know some of the staff asked this question. From the school board's perspective, you know, we had adjusted our budget cycle or voted to review our budget every quarterly now, right? So as COVID develops, to see where those opportunities are to increase those funds. I want to make sure folks know, you know, we were anticipating about $80 million that we didn't receive from the Board of Supervisors to be able to do this. Both the scale enhancement, right? So the cost of living adjustment.
That's right.
And the step increase. So when we didn't have that money because of COVID, we were in a tight spot. I mean, most of our money is already pre-planned. A lot, especially the majority goes to salaries and benefits and things that are already, in place. So it's not even negotiable on some of that stuff. So we do plan to look at how we can provide this moving ahead.
And it's hard, but I do want to say we've spent more. The last 2 years were the first 2 years of fully funded budgets for Fairfax County Public Schools in over 30 years. So and a lot of that money went to get compensation right for all of our staff, and especially teachers getting market adjusted. We spent over $120 million just to do that. And unfortunately, this year we had to pause on everything. We were about to have our third year of a fully funded budget, and it got taken away by COVID, and it's a tragedy. But obviously, what's worse is the loss of life that COVID has brought to this country and the world. But it did have a huge economic impact as well. And but I'm a light at the end of the tunnel guy too. You just have to walk through the tunnel a little bit longer, but the light is still there, and stay focused on it. And it's going to get better. And I am hopeful. Kimberly is going to be a senior, just like my two sons are going to be a senior this year. And I am going to do everything I can to watch and hope and pray that they get to walk across the graduation stage the way years and years of Fairfax students have always been able to do. And this year, for our class of 2020, we truly did the very best we could under unimaginable circumstances, and we won't forget them. And I am so proud of everything they've done. I did a video today to all of FCPS staff, and I talked about the class of 2020 and how proud I am of them, and what they did will never be taken away from them for the rest of their life. So I'm really proud of them, and I know all of you are too.
Yeah, if anything, they've demonstrated a resilience really that's exceptional to lead us forward. I want to be respectful of your time. The questions are going to continue coming in. Kim, if you want to just consolidate.
It's 8 o'clock?
I know.
I'm done working?
You're never done working, but I know this is and we're part-time, by the way.
Oh, I know. Yeah. You're part-time at 80 hours a week, and that's
exactly right.
It is something. I mean, Kimberly, I don't even think you make the same salary as the school board as a student rep, right? So,
yeah.
Oh my goodness, you guys are true public servants, and it's great to see all these questions and interest. And I do feel something you were referencing earlier. You're tapping in to creating a network for people to feel more invested, that the system is interested in hearing about their needs and their voice. I certainly wasn't on a town hall like this before, and I've thoroughly enjoyed being here this evening, and will be glad. I can't come back every week. I just have every.
We need you to be running our school system.
You need to do that.
So,
But this is part of running a school system, which is people needing what we talked about, to be able to be heard and have questions answered, but continue to follow along with us with all the school board work that you guys are doing. And it sounds like at all these QuaranSTREAMs that you're doing, you're really directing folks to go to websites, to go to work sessions, to go to school board formal meetings, and just keep learning more. And knowledge is power. That's been true from the beginning of time, across civilizations, across all backgrounds. Knowledge is one of the huge keys to success, and you all are dispensing that through these QuaranSTREAMs. So good job.
no, thank you for joining us. I would be remiss if I didn't address one thing, Dr. Brabrand, so forgive me, I have to bring this in. On the equity piece, I know that some of the, as our country has progressed and where our thinking is nationally, some of the things that came to the surface were some of the disparities that exist, no doubt, in our county as well. And those are some of the things I know you've committed to working on. But we also live in the legacy of Brown versus Board and massive resistance and things that have left us in a place that have systemic injustices, not just in our schools, in our neighborhoods, and more broadly. So when we look at how that manifests, even in FCPS, right, we've heard from some of our students who have talked about experiences that are uncomfortable, things that have been said. I know the one thing that's kind of exploded has been the TJ admissions point, right? People were kind of shocked that not a single Black student was admitted into this previous class. There are always the conversations about boundaries and the name changes we talked about earlier, and discipline and achievement gaps. A lot of work to be done. I know you're committed to it. I know we have, our equity office that's going to continue working in this direction. But I wanted to make sure folks knew that these numbers are within the context of these problems that we are working towards, right? And we have a new board that's working alongside you to make sure these are an emphasis and a priority. I wanted to, if you wanted to comment on that at all, I know you have a commitment to equity and it's been an important piece.
Yes. Well, TJ has been something I think that's been an issue for a long, long time. Don't believe everything you read in social media. The idea that there's no admittees may not be the truth, but it is certainly true that the folks that are getting in TJ in terms of African American and Latino students are very small numbers, and we need to do a lot better. And I think this is going to be something that the board and the community and our faculty and staff and our principal at TJ, Ann Bonatavis, is a great principal. She has sent out her own call to action to the community around multiple things at TJ. And we need to be sure as we're doing this, TJ has a lot of great kids doing great stuff. This is just about how can we get more of that great stuff to more students. It's not about taking away. It's just about providing the opportunity for others to experience something that's great. Disney World's not about telling people to kick people out of the park. It's about how can we get more people to go to Disney World and have a great time. TJ has a lot of rich resources, amazing experiences. How can we give more people the opportunity to experience that? And that's, I think, the challenge that we're going to be working on in the months ahead. And I'm confident that the board is going to work very closely with me to do that. So I think it's important the way we frame it too. It's trying to really bring more opportunity, more access to more students. And we have a lot of great schools in our system beyond TJ. All of our high schools are the top couple of hundred in the entire country. And we've got to start to go deeper too, I think. And it's just part of our country to judge that schools' worth is based on a test score, but we never actually even ask what the test is testing. And many tests, and there's a lot of literature, are biased against some students' past background, their cultural background. And that's even been stated by some of our school board members in the past about the SOLs. And in fact, the governor has been relooking at all of our social studies tests to see if they really have the kind of diverse curriculum that needs to be had and that makes everybody connect, one, with the true narrative of our history, but also if there's a book that you're never in, or anyone that looks like you is in, how interesting is it to read it or to learn it? And we've been a multi-hued society from our birth, but some were slaved and some were free. Some had privilege and some didn't. So we have an obligation to tell the stories accurately and better. And I think we'll be able to do that with a lot of our work around all of our high schools, making it more easy for kids to take advanced work, starting and even in elementary, to do more what our consultant for advanced academics called front loading, getting kids excited, giving additional supports, expanding young scholars, and then saying you can dream any dream you want. And TJ doesn't have to be something that only a few can get in and attain to. So we have a lot of work to do on that, and we will. And I think you all will be able to bring valuable perspectives. I know you'll be able to do that. And I think we can come up with something better than what we have had before.
Absolutely. And you know, at your point of looking at these tests and all of that, making sure that the systems, our role, right, is to make sure those systems are fair and inclusive, and that everyone knows these opportunities are out there for them. And I'm glad to hear your reflections on that, and looking forward to working with you on that. For those who are interested in this in particular, we did have, on a related note, the advanced academic programs. Recently, we had an external consultant who reviewed the whole program to take a look at how race plays in and whether they're fair. There was a 5-hour work session that Dr. Brabrand and the board sat through. I would encourage you to take a look at that on YouTube. We're going to be having a future work session to look at as well. TJ, no doubt, is one of our advanced academic programs. You know, it's one of the advanced academic programs are one of the filters to that. So take a look at that if you're interested in the topic more. I know that the TJ alumni group has put forth a number of different working groups to address this as well and do some research and work in collaboration with the school system. So if you're a TJ alum or if you're interested in this kind of thing, be sure to reach out to the school and to the principal, Dr. Brabrand, to your point. So with that, thank you so much, Dr. Brabrand. It's a pleasure being with you this evening.
Welcome. Thank you.
I'll be seeing you very shortly.
I promise to come back, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend.
That's right. You too. That's all with us, guys. Thank you for joining our QuaranSTREAMs Thursdays and Sundays, 7 p.m. We'll see you next time.